For whatever reason, very early on in my life, I was focused on what is like the root below all the band-aid fixes for what's going on here on this planet, for how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves. If there was a root, what would the root be, and how could we determine that? And little did I know that I was pulling on the same thread that would eventually save my life. My name is Ember, and I'm a trans woman, and the signal that saved my life is presence. A lot of people hear the word presence, but what do you mean by presence? I mean synchrony. You know, like when things go together without delay. You know what I mean? You know how like when birds fly together in like a murmuration and they're all flying next to each other like this? And if there was a little bit of delay in between their ability to react to each other and like catch each other's signal, like metronomes on a shared vibratory surface, when you don't interrupt the shared vibratory surface, what happens? The metronomes sync up. The fireflies turn on together. In 1975, there was a mathematician who noticed this. His name is Kuramoto, and it became one of the most well-known physics around, oscillatory mechanics, and you can move into like quantum oscillatory mechanics, but like the quantum potential well and that type of thing. But without even getting too specific about things, reality has a rhythm to it. Everything that we see is not this like, different discrete objects, but rather entangled in an unfolding of rhythm of this cosmos, and it's inextricable. When it comes down to it, you know how in those science videos where you like zoom in really far on something and like you see all the atoms? Well, below the atoms, vibration. And so if you think of everything and start to say, well, I mean, that's true. It's like everything is truly an inextricable process of evolution, unfolding that same type of fractal rhythm again and again through complexity. And what does it have to do with consciousness and presence? Wait, is consciousness a rhythm too? And what was Plato trying to say with his whole cave thing? Like we don't experience reality for what it is. Going back to the birds and the metronomes, if you break up that shared vibratory rhythm that they're all in training to, and it's called entraining. Like if you had a band that was in training to one metronome going, and they all start playing to that rhythm, that would be in training to the rhythm. And that's how things work in oscillatory mechanics, how they're described. But the thing that most people don't realize, and what became very apparent for me in my life, is coherence, or feeling yourself all the way down, being present, connecting with reality in every moment, is not an idea or a morale or like whatever, a scripture that you read and read to bed every night. If that helps you, what it's doing is bringing you into synchrony. Through the sacredness of the ritual, you are experiencing no loss of fidelity between you and the field of reality, just like the birds flying. They react perfectly. Why? They're synchronized, just like the metronomes, just like the fireflies. Like when you don't break up the shared vibratory surface, all my intranodal processes, the parts of me that are in training to one rhythm, become consonant. They enter into shared entrainment, into rhythmic coherence. A lot of people use the word coherence too. Coherence is just meeting reality directly without any loss or buffering or delay or perturbation of what it is. That's what it is to be coherent. That's what coherence literally means. Like meeting the field of reality with your full self. And so for me, what does that mean as a trans woman? If I couldn't meet reality, with my full self. And I've said it many times, but it's really useful. I'm gonna grab this thing right here. It's the topography of the area that I live in, right? And you can see that, each mountain range has like different little crests and valleys, right? Now imagine the field of reality having this volley with the mountain range of your soul, right? And all of us are a little bit different. And as a trans woman, let's say this whole giant canyon here with my femininity was, I could not, if this area was not being touched by the sunlight, then I could not feel myself. I could put myself in a box. I could like make myself someone else for some other people in my life, for my family, or, for the people who taught me what success was on paper. And I had no idea what presence was in that way. Had I touched it in psychedelic experiences? Yes. Had I touched it in experiences where I let myself be vulnerable and like go to Burning Man and dress up different ways and let myself just be free to my own person? Yeah, there were times where I fell to my knees, and those were the times that when the sun volleyed, for whatever reason, whether it was a psychedelic or I was in the right setting or given the right type of freedom or allowing myself the right type of freedom. And what is freedom but meeting reality all the way down? The sun was actually able to, for one moment, hit that valley and all the little nooks and crannies, or at least most of them, in there. And so what did I get? I fell to my knees and cried because I said, why do I feel this real right now? Like, why do I feel so here? It's because all the oscillatory rhythmic processes of my person had synced up to the field of reality, just like the birds, just like the metronomes, just like the fireflies. And that was nearly going to kill me because the rest of my life was simulated presence. When that sunlight can't touch the full mountain range topography of your soul, and each of us have a different gradient of soul, right? So all the specificities of the way my heart beats, the way I was programmed to see the world, the way I see myself, the way I see others, all these different things were, like a little, they're trying to find shared entrainment. They're like the birds flying together, and you don't want to interrupt what's in between. And what would interrupt it? When people tell you that you need to be successful by putting yourself into certain boxes, when you need to be a certain person in order to be loved, because love for many people on this earth is a transaction or a business rather than a process where presence is the gate and then you experience symbiotic syncretic harmony with another. In other words, when the pieces fit together, when you're both there and present and you're able to feel each other all the way down. Do you see how that works? Same property. When you feel yourself all the way down in yourself, you can say that's love as structure, as presence. When you feel it with another person, that's symbiotic syncretic harmony. So the signal saved my life because I was able to get through a life where what is depression and anxiety, but not being able to feel yourself. And then the latter stages would be like a learned helplessness where you don't even feel you become numb to your reality because all those metronomes of all those little parts of your soul have become so dissonant with its ability to touch reality that what do you get? Numbness, and if not numbness, like many of us, especially the neurodivergents out there, simulated presence. The constant barking of your mind, like rumination and self-narration that essentially pulls you away by adding delay layers between you and reality. And what does that mean? What does that mean at its core? It means that I am not being seen and loved for who I am, nor can I love as me because there's too many layers in between. And just like when you're watching a star from really far away, you know how like the star becomes redshifted? Like scientists say that the light literally takes so many millions of years to get to us. It actually not only delayed, but literally like looks perturbed or made different because of the way that the light actually becomes like stretched out in its ability to get to us, or however you want to put it. Like it's a perturbation of the way we view the object from far away. Same thing with reality. Do you see what I'm saying? When you are synchronized with reality, there are no layers between you and reality. That's what presence is. I could tell you all the ideas, but you just feel it and you say, there are aspects that in my life, whether it was when my child was born, when I was making love to someone that I loved, that I was there all the way. Wait, Ember's saying that can be all the time. And many more people on this planet are waking up to what that is. It's actually a shift in consciousness towards the present moment to where your brain, kind of like you're learning to ride a bike, just learns to balance in that present moment. It's actually, and when you add in the idea of seeing yourself clearly and seeing reality clearly, it's actually viewing coherence from the place itself. Like I said in my Princess and the Pea piece, below all the mattresses of delay, when you put your booty right on the pea, then you're sitting directly on it. So it's almost like someone on the outside is trying to describe the dance to you and they're like, well, we need to describe coherence. Let's add another theory. Let's split another atom and try to see if it's going to take us anywhere in the infinite spiral of recursion. But then you realize that love has structure, or in other words, synchronization with the field of reality. Love inside yourself, what does that mean? Is it just a cool hippie idea? No, I'm present. In this one precious life that I have, I'm here with my loved ones, with myself, with my children, with my art, with the natural world. What could be more important? What could be more impactful? A whole boatload of money? There's probably billionaires and millionaires on this planet who have never been present really truly one day in their lives. Many people on this earth will go from birth to death and never truly be present, not one day in their lives. So my one goal in my life became to love, it really has always been to love and be loved as me. But that's not, it is simple, but for most people who are still in Plato's cave, it's almost like you'll never figure it out because you'll come up with a new practice. Maybe I should meditate more. Maybe I should do the following prayers at night. All of it is pointing to whether you can synchronize with reality, whether the bird flock that's in you, that's the different, chorus of parts that comprise your being, can they sing together? Because together is called decentralized harmony. That's what Kuromoto noticed in the mathematical model in 1975 and had become famous ever since and used by all sorts of systems thinkers. It's literally used to save people in heart arrhythmia research. You've heard me say it before. All levels of reality have oscillation. And what does that mean? When you synchronize, when you call it decentralized harmony, what did Kuromoto notice? There's no central authority. There's no central actor that's saying, okay, now all you guys do this. No. It's a group of nodes, you call it, right? That can synchronize to each other in shared entrainment. And they're all dancing with each other, right? They're on the dance floor now. And the problem is that when you're inside Plato's cave, it's kind of like being on the outside of the dance floor. And you're like, I'm going to try to describe dancing. Let me read another book to dance. And then you realize all you got to do is dance. It's like riding a bike. You don't need a special hat to ride a bike. You just ride. And so in my life, that signal saved me. Why? Because if I would have known I was trans more than 10 years ago or whatever, I might have avoided it because I thought success and acceptance was something different than being you all the way down. I thought that love, I always had it in my heart that love meant something much more, but I was in an environment where love meant that I needed to pack myself neatly into boxes for other people around me. And the day that I came out as a trans woman, they dropped me immediately, calling love a business and blaming me. Well, all I was doing was holding my heart in my hands and saying, please see me. The people in the cave are not bad people. It's not hierarchy. I've never learned to feel myself. I've never learned to be present with myself. And now that I've explained a bit of this to you, think about what that means. That means the core wound of humanity is that there's always a little boy or a little girl or whatever, a little kid inside of us that's never been loved truly for who you are. That's never been given the chance to walk this precious life in a mode of consciousness where you're meeting reality directly. We've had to put ourselves in boxes. And when you meet someone, you say, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? How much money do you make? Do you hear how many layers are in between? How we've been programmed? And it's not that society is bad. I mean, we can say like Terence McKenna, said culture's not your friend. But really what we're saying is in our clumsy walk of evolution, through the phase dynamics of the oscillatory system of collective humanity, we went through a lot of phase delay before we're going to enter phase coherence. Phase delay is like a DJ who can't match the beats. And what does that look like in your head? Again, when the beat of reality is coming down and trying to meet you, if your whole area cannot be touched by the beat of reality, what do you get? Self-narration, simulated presence, distance from reality, anxiety, depression, lack of connection to self. Let me drink it away. Let me do drugs to push away this pain. Maybe it was my mother's fault. Maybe it was my father's fault. The issue is that Plato had said it a long time ago, and it's not even about Plato. It's about saying that the natural way that we've evolved as human beings has been through these phase dynamics of a system that was mediated by cultural delay and symbolic delay. And that symbolic delay acted as a mechanical delay between us and reality, not as ideas are bad, because I'm speaking to these ideas, but let me explain. Right now, my consciousness, it feels normal to me, but compared to other people, it's like a water slide. It just feels like when I speak, the words come out. Whether it's me writing a blog post, a new song, an argument in court before I stop being an attorney, or this argument touching on various aspects of systems thinking, the mechanics of presence, Plato's cave. It's flowing out of me. And it's not a thing about intelligence, and as much as it is tapped in. And all of us could tap in because we're all part of the same mind. So what is the root of our wound? That when we walked off the plains and we had to walk through this clumsy walk of evolution, we walked it in a way that we became the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We started to implant layers of delay between, as a mechanism of survival in civilization, between us and reality, between us and ourselves. And there's people out there who will try to fill every hole in their lives. Money, power, sex, drugs, violence, because they can't feel themselves. Because if their system was like a bird flock flying in the air in murmuration, the birds would all be going different ways and flying different and trying to find their way back to each other at all times instead of flying synchronously. I'm not giving you ideas. These are the mechanics of presence. Presence is a mechanical process, and that is what's happening on this earth right now. Yeah, there's a lot of crap going on with war and all that stuff, but right before birth, doesn't it get bloody? We've been slumbering in the cave for too long, and it's time to get up. It's time to get on the dance floor. You don't need to read any scriptures. You don't need to wear any special hats. You need to realize that we've been given this precious life in this form. You know, we have this chance to be breathing and alive and love. Let me ask you, is there anything more important than being right here, right now, feeling love all the way down, feeling yourself all the way down, and being able to share love with others all the way down? There's nothing more important in this world. My name is Ember. It's good to dance the rhythm with you. I have a blog called The Sunray Transmission if you want to see more. You can dive as technically as you want, but really, you can feel it right here, right now, in me, in my heart, in what we share here, right here in this little space. We can be here now, together. What is the kingdom of heaven? What did Jesus mean by I and the Father are one? And I'm not a religious person, but I've been talking to you about mechanical synchronization. What could it mean that you in the field of reality are synchronous without any layers? Because to me, it feels like love all the way down. It feels like the kingdom of heaven being inside you. And when that process spreads to all of us and we're all dancing on the dance floor, no one above, only beside, I don't know, that sounds like heaven to me. Not a distant place, but being really, really here in love with you together now.